Welcome to Your Wealth Matters. I'm Janet Kimsing, and I'm joined by my fellow portfolio manager on the private wealth team, Maria Dawes. And today we're talking about what goes into making an investment policy statement. And before we get into that specifically, Maria, maybe can you tell us what is an investment policy statement?
Hi, Janet. And yes, I'm happy to. So, an investment policy statement, or an IPS as we call it here, serves as a governing document to record the client or the investor's investment intentions. It serves as the blueprint for your portfolio manager, who would then have the discretion to make investment decisions and trades based on this document. So, there are usually two components that go into an IPS, and those are the client's investment objectives and the investment constraints. Janet, do you maybe want to talk about how we formulate a client's investment objectives?
Yes. So when we talk about investment objectives, we're talking about two things which are interconnected, the return objective and risk tolerance. We won't go into how we formulate a return objective as we spoke about that in a previous edition of Your Wealth Matters, but I'll just reiterate that it should be a goals-based endeavor and touching on risk because there are three components to evaluating risk, and that includes the need to take risk, which you can think of as how aggressive do we need to be in order to achieve the return objective. Then comes the ability to bear risk, and that tends to be in reference to the portfolio size or a client's overall net worth. If you have a higher net worth, then you would presumably have a higher capacity for risk versus someone just starting out investing, for example. And lastly, and most importantly, the overall risk tolerance, which is led by one's comfort level and what we call the sleep at night factor. And this is very individual and can even vary within couples. The bottom line, we don't want clients investing in anything that they are not comfortable with from a risk perspective. That's really important no matter what the need and ability to take risk will point to. Rhea, we've spoken about the risk and return profile. What are some of the constraints that we have contained within the IPS?
Yeah, so some of the constraints are potential liquidity events, for example. If someone may need to liquidate a sizable portion of their portfolio within the next couple of years, then that could affect our recommended asset allocation. Another constraint is the time horizon. The way we invest a portfolio is going to look quite different, whether we are investing for just a couple of years or for a long time, like such as 20 years or longer. And lastly, we have tax considerations. We may manage a variety of accounts for someone. These may include RSPs, TFSAs, non registered accounts. And we want to make sure that we have our investments efficiently distributed so that securities with higher tax consequences go into the TFSA or RSPs, such as income producing investments, whereas those that are more focused on capital gains, these are more tax efficient, can go into the non-registered account. And it's maybe a bit of a simplistic overview, but those are some of the factors that we will take into an account. Janet, what happens when we have all the information? So how does it all come together?
So, knowing a client's risk and return profile alongside any constraints allows us to then put together a recommended asset allocation, which could include fixed income, equities, and alternative investments. You may hold several funds in order to have some diversification, and this allocation will hold until there are significant changes in a client's circumstances, which could include their own desire to dial down the risk or if something comes up that necessitates a change. If a client receives a windfall, perhaps through an inheritance, as an example, that could materially change a client's circumstances and so on.
Great. So here is a rundown on what we've discussed so far. Formulating investment objectives can be broken into return requirements and risk tolerance. Number two, constraints that need to be considered when coming up with a suitable allocation include time horizon, liquidity events, tax treatment, and maybe even other unique circumstances. And lastly, an agreed upon asset allocation may need to be reevaluated in light of changes in your circumstances or a change in risk tolerance and even potentially other macroeconomic factors.
Thanks, Maria. I think that's a great summary. If you have any further questions about either formulating an investment policy statement, or if you think you may need to update your investment policy statement, please reach out to your portfolio manager. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Your Wealth Matters, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Bye for now.
Bye.